Hi, folks. This is Lee with the Market Sense for the week of January 14th, 2020. Barely recovered from a great weekend of football. Trade Navigator is the software that provides these charts that we'll be looking at today. And this is a weekly bond market chart. And boy, it's tough to get bogged down in the minutia here. I think the big picture here is they haven't done much for a while. I mean, this goes back into early November where they're in this sideways pattern, and really you could go back a couple months further than that. You could almost just put a band around 162, 154, or somewhere in that vicinity until they go outside of that. They're not going anywhere. There is some truth to that. There's nothing major going on at any point here. But what we're looking at this week is we were kind of looking at the 157.05 level to possibly be support, and it looks like they're trying to do that. That should kick them up to at least 158.10, but there's a good chance they'll go test last week's high somewhere in the mid 159 range. If they break down further instead, there's support the 155, let's call it 55.16 down here is support. Whatever they do in that regard is still within the confines of this great big congestion area here. And I'm not sure I see a reason for them to bust out of there yet. Something happens globally economically, or maybe something happens to chill the stock market out, then maybe we get something. But for now, I think the Fed has this lower for longer mentality going, and that kind of means we're probably not going to move very far unless something happens to jolt them, which I just don't see right now. Stocks, of course, are a completely different story. Last week we talked about how we finally had a sizable breakdown here and people were running like Chicken Little calling the sky falling. And hopefully we showed you last week that there was no danger, that they were just in a normal spot. And of course, they turned right back to new highs. I didn't expect them to go quite that quickly, but they did. They turned to new highs last week and they're at new highs again this week. Now, we've got a target up here around 33.0607. Maybe they'll get there, maybe they won't. We were looking at support at 32.39, which they don't appear anxious to get to. But look, this market will turn down at some point. It will, I promise. I promise you'll see a turn down. But you do not have to be the hero that's the first to sell it, and I'm certainly not going to be. If you just look at all the money you could have lost trying to sell this market for the last, 4 months? You just can't do it. It's dangerous to sell a market making new all-time highs. It's especially dangerous to sell the U.S. stock market making new all-time highs. They'll always go much further than you expect. And right now they're still going. So they're going to turn down at some point, and this is certainly getting long enough in the tooth that you would have to think that maybe they're due for a substantial back off. But I can't predict where it's coming from, and I'm not going to try. So that's what we've got for you today. I hope you can find something profitable to get yourself in.